Alright, do you want me to give you a countdown, Hyoka?
Hyoka said that she's ready, so.
Alright. Then I guess I will give you a countdown to jump into the medium warp. We'll go in 3, 2, 1, go. I Want to Be the Justice is a game by Kanibabaru, otherwise known as Carnival, because Japanese is the language of gods. And it is an adventure game. There's a lot of story involved in this, so I'm going to be abridging it a lot. You wake up in a mysterious forest, you don't know where you are. You're greeted by a blue pixie thing who introduces herself as Nina. And they are trying to discuss why you're there. They can't come to a conclusion, so she's like, well, I didn't just call you nothing. How about the name Haya? And originally the player's like, nah, that's a dumb name, but eventually they grow on it. Nina explains that she was a elf that lived in a village before the Demon King took over, and the Demon King decided to cause chaos in the land and turned Nina into a fairy, and a bunch of other stuff happened too. But then suddenly the Demon King just decided to leave for no reason. Like, he wasn't even defeated or anything, he just left. But a new Demon King has appeared, and Nina has decided if they can defeat the Demon King, then they can return peace to the land. And they're going to use Haya to do so. So, now that you know that, Nina talks about obtaining the justice elements, and thus they go out on a journey to obtain said justice elements. This is the first stage of the game. This is the mountains. It looks a bit more like a forest, but this is actually the mountains of the game. Nina and Haya decide that if they climb to the top of this mountain, they may be able to find where one of the justice elements is stored. Yeah, it's basically just the grasslands. Coming up here, the player and Nina notice that there is apples or fruit falling from the sky. I'm going to be referring to them as apples because that's what the game creator refers to them as. And they wonder, what could this possibly be? Oh, this is Ringo, the first boss of the game. It is the first of the Devil King's minions that you encounter. It's just a large fruit, but it's more like a giant sakura. It has a couple of attacks, one of the most notable being that it breaks the bridge below you. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, but it's actually really important because that bridge never comes back. Meaning that if, like right now, there was a 4-block gap, if it decided to break those blocks in the middle, then there'd be nothing Hyoka could do. But suddenly the bridge collapses and you fall! Oh no! You fall into the beach. And there's actually a pretty funny conversation here where the kid's like, no, I don't want to swim to land, but Nina's like, you can't swim? And the kid's like, oh, fine. I say that's funny because it gets brought up again later. Anyways, they weren't able to actually get to the top of the mountain. They had to fall off of it. So now they're just going along the path ahead, seeing if maybe they can get back to the top of the mountain. One thing I do want to point out, though, was that there was a normal kid back there. I'm not talking like the player where they look like a demon. I'm talking about the normal, regular, plain kid sprite. Now that doesn't seem like much now, but we'll get into it later. While we're in a little bit of a passing period with this stage, I should probably say what the justice elements are. The justice elements are they're not the thing that controls the land in justice. They are just the thing that lets you get to the place that controls the land in justice. Justice is also one of those classic fan games that features restarting music for a majority of the game. But yeah, eventually we get to the top quality production. We gotta earn it though. There's a couple of traps that are actually pretty funny. Carnival, for anyone who isn't aware, is the same guy that made a bunch of other games that will be played in this marathon, like Destination. So if you are ever in the presence of a white ball with a face on it, more than likely you are playing a game by Carnival. Eventually, the beach leads them to a cave, and they decide to explore the cave because they really don't have anywhere else to go. I'm also going to shut up for a solid minute because this song is an absolute banger. One of the interesting things to note about this game is that a lot of times Nina will be speaking, but they just move so slowly that they'll never be on screen. So you just kind of have to assume they're just shouting from a long distance away. Here you have to shoot the orange spikes so that they break the blocks and let the water down. And let you progress. Justice doesn't have a ton of gimmicks, but the ones that it has... Yep, that's English. The ones that it has are pretty interesting, and I think they're well used. And there's also obvious traps where there is obvious traps. Some of the triggers in this game are actually pretty hard to, like, activate. This water here falls, but it barely means anything. Now, after passing through the cave, Nina and Haya, Japanese is a great thing. Nina and Haya stumble upon a chest. They think it contains a justice element, but oh no, the chest was rigged! Everything is falling! Oh god! Where am I? Haya comes up and finds a person called the Owner. They are the owner of the game place. Yes, this may look like the world's worst arcade because it is. The owner of the game place finds Haya's gun and decides, hey, this looks cool. I'm gonna take it. And Haya's like, what? No, that's my gun. You can't do that. And the owner's like, what? I don't see your name on it. And Haya's like, fine. What do I need to do to get it back? And the owner says, go to the end of this labyrinth that I've made. And Haya says, oh, that shouldn't be too hard. Wait, I don't have a gun. I can't save. Which is basically meaning that Hyoka needs to beat this entire segment in one go, even though there's plenty of saves. Because there may be saves, but you have no gun to shoot them with. So what's the point, really? Coming up soon is a pretty hard trap to dodge, but I'm fairly certain that Hyoka can dodge it. Alright, here we are. Oh no! Oh, they did it. They're a legend. They got their gun back, and Haya says, I'm putting my name on this. Never again. And never again do you lose your gun. Pretty smart, writing your name on stuff. So now they have to go all the way back in order to make the exit. Because there was an exit all the way back there. They just couldn't activate it because there was a block in the way. How do you break that block? With your gun. But if you don't have a gun, you can't break it. So there's a problem. One of the good parts about the way back is that you have saves at your disposal now that you have the gun. So it becomes significantly easier. And it means you can do a lot more harder routes. There's going to be a couple times where you just save and restart to set up for a cycle because a lot of Carnival games involve setting up for cycles and other stuff of the sort. You would never know by just watching, but that block there is actually fake. That is why Hyoka does not land on it. That drop in the bottom right is also pretty hard. You're falling at max V speed. So from the very beginning, Nina has been talking with Haya about, what do you remember? Why are you here? And Haya's like, oh, I don't know. I don't know why I'm here. Eventually they get to the top, or the bottom of the game place, and the Ona decides that they are going to fight, but in their true form! Introducing Purple Death, otherwise known as Murasaki Dedo. They are the true owner of the game place, and they are one of the Devil King's minions. If you've ever played a game called I Want to Be the Picture, you'll notice that this boss looks very similar to that boss. And that's because it is that boss. It is canonical that these are the same boss. Don't ask me how that works, it just does. Swick dodges. Once you get done there, Nina and Haya find themselves in a volcanic area, and Nina asks Haya if you can just swim across. And it is at this point where Haya decides that, you know what, I've had enough of Nina. I'm tired. I'm not swimming across. I'm going to use other stuff at my disposal. And they do. What I find interesting here is that the lava, it has a weird hitbox because it's flat. But it's not flat to a block. It's just a flat plane that you can kind of judge, but also not really, which makes this jump a lot harder than it seems. Some of these saves are surprisingly barren, like this save right here, which is just platforming, which isn't a bad thing. It's nice to have some variety, but you have all of this lava at your disposal, and that's hot. These platforms over on the right will drop when you drop on them. You can use that to get your jump back if you're ever in a sticky spot. And somehow, the volcanoes led you to the mountain. It's weird how that works. Now that you're at the top of the mountain, it's time to enter the fortress. What's in the fortress? Not a lot, really. Just buttons. the buttons in this game are not saved to your save point, which means that if at any time you restart, whether it be intentionally or via death, the buttons you've hit will not be activated. So not dying here is a pretty good idea. It's around this point, too, in the story that Haya decides to wonder, who am I? Why do I have devil horns and stuff? And why is this fairy really adamant about following me? All these and more answered in about 30 minutes. We're past most of the button shenanigans. There's still a couple more, but they're all on the same save, so dying doesn't really mean as much. And the button lands. There is a super F that you can do here, which will actually skip most of the save, because you only really need to hit the top button. Bottom button just lets you hit the top button, but if you could somehow hit the top button before the bottom button, then you could skip the entire screen. Like that. Coming up here, we are stumbling across a portal. Portal was hidden in the fortress, but why? Why would there be a portal in a fortress? To take you to a tile set that only gets used twice. I don't know why these screens are here. They could have just dropped you off on the screen to the right, but hey, these screens exist. We are now in the snowy mountains, or the hilltops, your choice. No, these are not the same mountains that we were in earlier. We are in a completely different location. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about, maybe. There's some trees here that are being used to hide tiles and other spikes behind them. These bouncing snowballs are pretty hard to deal with because their bounce can be pretty weird. Like, it's predictable, but just knowing when they're gonna fall is the hard part. This save right here is just cool to look at. Huge dub boss, man. Here we see another use of the trees being used to hide some stuff behind them. Which, I mean, makes sense. If a tree grows on blocks, it's normally not going to grow behind the blocks. It grows into them. A quick save and restart here to get some good cycles on the platforms. You could do a double jump diamond here, but is it worth it? At first glance, you might not think there's anything wrong with the screen and that this top part is just a wide open area, But on further inspection, you'll realize that it's snowing. Wait, snowballs are deadly. Oh no! And here you have sentient snowmen, otherwise known as the twin snowmen, which you just skip. The blocks there aren't solid, so you just walk through them. Good game. I should say some information on them, though. Those were the twin snowmen, otherwise known as the Yuki Darumatsu Inzu. Yuki Darumatsu Shin. I'm not Japanese. They are two snowmen who reside near the entrance of the old house, and both of them are the Devil King's minions. So that brings what? A total of 4? There's 4 of the Devil King's minions so far? In this room, you're supposed to go up here and notice that those tiles line up against each other. And you get a code that you enter into this door over here. And now you're in here. But why are you here? There's nothing you can do here. So instead, you decide to read a book. You might have read it a little bit too well, though. It's a good book, but like, I don't know if it's worth transporting yourself to an entirely separate dimension over. These are the Shiratama lands. They are the lands inside of the book. You'll notice these background images, and they're not too intrusive, but there's some later that are pretty bright, so I will warn you that if you stare directly at them, they might cause like retinal damage. But to be fair, you're the one staring at bright, flashy images, so I can't be sued. Personally, I don't know if these drawings mean anything. They're just kind of there. I'm a big fan of that skull one that's on the bottom here, because it's just very drippy, and I like it when drippy stuff exists. This is some pretty hard platforming for the game too. Like, most of this has just been generally easy stuff. This is where the game starts to get kind of difficult. Shoutouts to Haya. It's almost like that name was intentional. I wonder... Do you think... Nah, there's no way. Shoutouts to Fruit. That does actually kill you, in case you're wondering. And here we have the Prince of the Shiratama lands, Prince Shiratama, otherwise known as Shiratama Oji. They are the ruler of the Shiratama lands, which are named after him. They look remarkably similar to a certain white ball with guns, but I don't know. I don't see the resemblance. They are also one of the Devil King's minions. I have no idea how he managed to get a minion from a book, but hey, I've seen weirder. This boss has a couple of phases. The first one, you ride the platforms up to shoot him, but then he decides, you know what? Why am I giving you platforms? I'm gonna take those away. That red square that follows you in a very similar manner to Nina is Gonna be important in a while. Right now it's just gonna kill you, but in a bit it'll be important. Because now it turns green, and you can shoot it. And guess what happens when you shoot it? Bullet go brrr. This boss doesn't have a solid image mask, meaning that your bullets can sometimes just phase through it. But it's got so many lines in it that it usually doesn't even matter. Shoutouts to Colonel. Oof. This boss isn't incredibly hard, it's just 5 moderately hard, okay-ish attacks. Like, each attack in isolation is completely fine. But then you decide, hey, I'm gonna make you do all 5 of these in a row. I would like to also point out that this is the only game that Carnival has made that both features the Shiratama Prince and does not have them as the final boss. Weird, I know. Gonna let Hyoka focus for a bit. And there you go. And now the kid is expelled from the bookland. What is this? An angel? Otherwise known as Tenshi. It's a mysterious angel found in the old house. Well, maybe if you'd let them introduce themselves, you would find out that they are Laika, otherwise known as Ryuka. A not so mysterious angel that, after introducing themselves, gives information on how to get closer to the Devil King, and even gives some information on who Haya is. Not all of it, though, just some subtle hints and clues. They fly away, and then you get sent to the sewers, which is how you get closer to the Justice Elements, and in turn, the Devil King. These bars right here are solid blocks. It might be a bit weird thinking about how there's both the girder walls and also the iron bars, but hey, cosmetics. It's always good to get past that save first try. You don't want to have to deal with that ending section multiple times. Here is some cheap difficulty. The best kind of difficulty. Save not hard enough, make the player unable to see. Lol. Dodge the funny. And you're out of the sewers. Into the grasslands, part 2. This is still technically the mountains, but less mountainy and more blue. A lot of this section of the game is just cycles. Being able to get past apples at a certain moment. Like this save. Here we have some cyclical fruit. They go around in squares. Carnival makes really good use in this game of screens where you have to go through them in multiple different sections. Like these two screens right here. You enter the bottom one, you go to the top one, then you go back to the bottom one, go back to the top one, and then go right. What is this? A locked door? Why, we just need to go underground. Find the lock. You'll start to notice a trend in this game that normally whenever something's locked behind a door, usually the entrance key is found underground somewhere. I don't know why. It just is. Hyoka and Nina, or not Hyoka, Nina and Haya, those are the two characters that you play as in this game. Nina and Haya are getting close to a point where they think they might be able to find a justice element. So, what better way to do that than to go through closed doors and eventually get there? You have to wonder what was truly in the chest back at the cave, because, spoiler alert, you don't go back there. So it's just kind of left up to interpretation whether or not there was actually a justice element in there or not. Who knows, maybe the justice element got taken by the gamekeeper, and by beating him, you got it. That trap's always a fun one to dodge. Now that we have gone up, we have found the lock. It's just a button. Some falling debris could have pressed it or something, and you would have never known. Fake blocks there because that jump is actually impossible. And now we have entered the castle. It was rumored that there'd be a justice element here, So who knows? Maybe there is. Hitting that trigger up there is pretty hard, considering you have a 1-block window. Just a casual 2-frame gate here. Nothing big. These gates are pretty hard to do on moving platforms. The fire animation's always a bit weird, because instead of being tied to the sprite itself, I'm pretty sure that it gets a bit delayed, because it goes between 2 sprites, each with different hitboxes. A bunch of fake blocks here. And we get introduced to more buzzsaws. We saw these in the old house, but here they're a lot more prevalent. They go along this track here. They don't have to. Sometimes the best way to make a save interesting is to just throw away spikes and put a big buzzsaw in there. Because let me tell you, being a buzzkill is a lot more entertaining than being a spike kill. It's a pretty long platform ride section right here. Over more lava. I knew that gimmick would come back. And now, we've found it! The justice element! But so has Laika. Yeah, it turns out Laika was just using you in order to get to the justice element so they could actually go kill the Devil King, and now you're in a trap that Laika has set, and you're probably gonna die. Have fun, lol! This is the 5th boss of the game. These are the time bombs, otherwise known as the Jigen Bakudan. I doubt this trap was actually set by Laika, but it's a trap to deter people from stealing the justice elements. And Laika used that to their advantage by letting you be the one to fall into the time bomb. Something to note here is that you have to kill all of the time bombs, and some of them have gates in front of them, and if you look at the top of the screen, you will see that there is, in fact, a timer. If that timer hits 0, you die. And that's no fun. That blue dot following the character is called Nina. I explained who they were at the beginning of the run. They are a elven girl turned into a fairy. Boss is a pretty good exercise in resource and time management, as it's actually pretty hard to... It's not that hard in general to kill these things, but killing them all within 1 minute is where the challenge comes. Especially since they all have the longest iframes in the entire game. And it really doesn't help that you have to go to the wall in order to damage some of them. Especially if that one decides that, yep, now's a good time to shoot. That's 20 seconds left. Can Hyoka do it? They're having a bit of trouble trying to get over the left. 12 seconds. 10. Ooh, this is close. Close. 5 seconds to win. This blue apple's really doing him dirty. Can he do it? No. Sometimes you're just unable to do the amount of damage you need to. Which is why I was saying this boss in isolation isn't that terrible. It's the fact that you have to kill it in 1 minute, which makes it one of the harder bosses in this game. This RNG is so terrible. What you want to have happen is when you're damaging one side, you want the other side to start attacking. But we know that getting RNG like that isn't the most expectable. But there we have it! Oh no! Now everything's a time bomb! Explosion! It is at this point where Nina and... Oh, never mind. They just get blasted away into a faraway land. Now neither of them know who they are or where they are. Well, they still know who they are. Except for Haya. Haya's still a little bit confused with that one. But oh no, Nina has passed out! What are we gonna do? We gotta revive her! I know. I'll go into the caves! You know, the secret underground caves that activate only after you've read a sign. Smiley face. We've managed to revive Nina at the cost of now we are in a rather unfamiliar land. With more buttons! Nina and Haya are starting to realize the relationship they have with each other, and it's a bit of an unstable one, because originally Nina was more of a guide figure, helping Haya figure out where they needed to go. But now Nina's just a bit more pessimistic of Haya. They're not as encouraging of each other. For a reason. Most of the spikes in this pathway will trigger after you've hit the button. So you gotta bait a lot of them out. There we go. More buttons! A quick save and restart so we can get the good cycle on this platform here. And I heard you liked falling fruit. If you don't restart here, the fruit will stay gone. So it's actually better to not reset here, even though it might give you a little bit less of a good cycle. you love to see it. It's unknown exactly what type of graveyard land we're traversing exactly. Right now, anyways. But it's obviously important. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. And that's how stories work. Now we have more lava, but purple. The timings of these things are pretty hit or miss, because they come up at not necessarily random intervals, but just at random times. Like, you can always expect them to come up at the same times every time, but there's so many of them that being able to memorize that is such a hard task to do. Starting to notice that this game likes the color purple a lot. The player sprite is purple, that lava's purple. Heck, I think we've seen entirely purple areas. You're supposed to do a lot of shenanigans over on the right, but you can just fall through and skip it. Because who needs shenanigans when you have speedruns? Technically, you could just do some sort of cancel gate down there, but I doubt that it's actually as free as it looks, and there's probably some arbitrary reason why it's not a good idea. Also, canceling is really, really hard to do in adventure games. Like, you're not in the mindset to do it. We have entered the Crimson Caverns. This place is pretty electric. Shockingly so. This is definitely one of the most labyrinthy areas of the game, other than, of course, the labyrinth. But it makes for some interesting platforming, and some pretty hard ones at that. skip a couple saves because it's just faster to not shoot them. And it's all about speed. This jump's kind of a pain because you can only really tell when the laser's off by the other surrounding lasers. Which makes it pretty hard to judge your jumps. This area is huge, Kraka. It's one of the larger ones in the game. You take the moon. And you take the moon. And you take the moon. And you take the moon. Who is this? Is that Laika? What could have possibly defeated Laika? Oh, well, only the worst boss in the run, of course. This is Destimor, otherwise known as Destimua. They are the guardian of the path to the Devil King, and it was able to slay Laika, and you can kind of tell why. It's pretty not fair boss. The thing that's so bad about this boss is that there's an attack where the hands decide, hey, I'm gonna regenerate health. And they can do that while they're up there, and you have no chance of damaging them. On top of that, this is just a pretty hard boss in general. On top of that, you need to kill both hands at around the same time, because if you don't, then there's a bigger chance that one of them will come back. And if they come back, then they come back at full health. Which is not fun. We're at pretty low health now, but that doesn't really mean much in the grand scheme of things. You want to get to a point where you can kill both of them at around the same time. That's why Hyoka's not really shooting right now. Because if you kill one and then it decides, hey, I'm going to get my hand back, that is just a minute wasted, basically. So you want to wait for a moment. You want to wait for a moment in which both hands will decide to come down and attack you. Then you can get the final shot in on both of them at around the same time. Achieving the state known as kill the boss. Yeah, Destimor is not a well thought out boss. Now, you may be familiar with this boss from the medley game I Want to Get Wrecked. It's featured in that, but a lot of the bosses in that game are given improper names because Japanese is hard. So you may know this boss as the Jazz Hands Demon, because it's a demon, and it has jazz hands. What more do you want? You can see here the damage scale between the two hands is not quite as even as you'd want it to be. That's just unfair. It doesn't really help that on top of this there's a constant spammage of fruit and spikes and everything. Yeah, pretty much. Ryo. This and the fact that final boss takes around 10 minutes to beat in one sitting. Yeah, spoiler alert, this is not the final boss. There's still so many unanswered questions, like, what is Haya? Why is Haya? How is Haya? I think he's doing fine. We're at that legendary state again, where you want both hands to come down at you. Here we go. There you go. It's at this point, upon dying, that Destimore decides to basically explode. But before he does, Laika returns and takes him with him and saves Haya, but at what cost? Oh no! The humanity! Oh hey, a piece of candy. This is the Devil King's castle. I should probably say that in that exposition there was some information given about who Nina and Haya are. I think it's pretty obvious at this point that Haya is pretty devilish, wouldn't you say? So I'm sorry if this is the spoiler of the century, but yeah. Haya used to be a minion for the Devil King, and was actually very rampant in Nina's own village. That's why Nina knows Haya so well. Because Haya would regularly attack Nina's village, and just cause general mayhem for the Devil King. But once the first Devil King left, Haya was just kind of discarded. Thrown away like a battery that isn't used in a controller anymore. But it's still at a charge. How is that spoilers, Defense here? I'm telling you the story of a Japanese game as it's being told. Wait, is he the old Devil King? The way I understood it was that he's just a minion of the Devil King. He might actually be the old Devil King. The save is pretty choke heavy because it's just a lot of cycles you gotta work around. Shoutouts to Quickman. Some more plot is revealed here about Nina and Haya's connections. The plot of this game is really good. I've considered making an entire full game English translation, but A, my Japanese sucks, and B, it would take so long to do because a lot of the text in this game is just filler. The story of this game is pretty solid for a Fangame. It's just how it's told isn't. Hot take. You get a red key here, so you can open up red blocks that you wouldn't have seen, but you could have seen if you went down there first, but we know all this already. We've got some cameras watching us. And they're shooting spikes. Oh no. Quick, to the teleporter! It's not really a teleporter, it's just a generator, but it uses the teleporter sprite from Mega Man. I love power generators, and that is totally one. Notice how there is a notable lack of spikes now. They still follow you. They just don't shoot spikes anymore. And it is good to have that save done with. It's one of the longer saves in the game. I prefer spike turrets. We're at the point in the game where a lot of the old gimmicks will be thrown in here and there-ish. And we make our way through some sort of ventilation system. Intruder alert! Intruder alert! This is the intruder detection system, otherwise known as Shinyasha Daigeki Shitsutema. This is an alarm set by the Devil King to both harm and warn off any challenges that are approaching. Sour please, by the way. You know your avoidance is good when you manage to get Piece of Cheese to put it in his own medley. That doesn't tell you how good this boss is, and I don't think you understand the surrounding message of it. Some of the attacks in this can be pretty terrible, transition-wise. Like, if you're just not able to get to the spot you need to be, there's really nothing you can do for backup. This is one of the harder bosses in the game. Not the hardest by any means, but any game that just has one avoidance and then 7 shooter bosses usually means that the avoidance is pretty hard. The only other game that I know of that uses this as a boss is Culture 2 in Boss Rush. It might be used elsewhere, but I am not sure. This song is such an unlikely avoidance song, but like songs that are made to, or avoidances that are made to songs that you wouldn't expect usually tend to be some of the better ones. Because the maker had to think about what they're gonna do with each part of it. And he's done it. He has beaten the intruder detection system. You have gone through the castle of the Devil King. So now there's only one more thing left to do. Ascend to the heavens to beat Satan. Strange, isn't it? Here's some dialogue you can't skip. This is Nina talking. I wish I could translate this, but I have lacking abilities to do so. If anyone wants to translate this in chat, feel free. But as far as I know, it's just Nina and Haya coming to terms with each other, realizing that people can change, and that's a wholesome message. We have ascended to the cosmos. And now welcome to literally every medley game ever. Holy God, why does every medley game decide to, hey, let's use Justice, and then let's use this stage? Like, yeah, it's probably one of the best stages in the game, but like, I don't get it. Get your Camellia 3, Happel 2, Shadow Link, Cultured. Is my mic dying? I'll just move my mic a little closer to my face, I guess. Maybe that'll help. Anyways, final stage, we've reached the part with non-restarting music. Wow! That's epic. Kraken. Is something up with audio? part of the game where the lore says that we are going to fight the Devil King after obtaining the Justice Element and reaching him. This part of the game is pretty... pretty hard. I guess that just kind of sucks that people can't hear me. Whatever. We're at the end of the run anyways, so it doesn't really matter.
Josh, I pulled you into the remote, so Hyoka cannot hear you now, but you should be much louder.
Okay, I guess I'll just watch on the stream. We're near the end of the run anyways, so it doesn't matter if I'm not exactly live. Oh. Am I fine? Is my audio fine? Are we pog champing in the chat? Alright, anyways, in this last stage of the game, you go through different versions of the same stuff. Like, you think you beat the first stage? Nope, you're actually going backwards. Sorry. I believe we go purple, and then red, and then green, and then white, I think, in that order. So if you were wondering to yourself, I thought the Camellia 3 screens were green, you were correct. I don't know if there's a green one in Cultured. I know there's a Cultured 2. I know there's a green screen in Cultured 1. I guess there's also blue. That makes sense. You gotta go forward, back, forward, back, forward. Purple, red, blue, green, white. Yeah, that sounds right. Anyways, there's not really much special going on here, like, other than it's one of the most visually appealing stages in the game. But as far as actual platforming goes, it's honestly a lot less complicated than what we were doing back in the castle of the Devil King. Before we get to the Devil King, though, I do want to say that this is really an underrated game. Like, I'm not saying that Carnival's other games aren't good, if not better, but I am saying that there's a lot of cool stuff in this game that just goes unnoticed. Because a list of things that everyone seems to remember are the Jazz Hands Demon and this stage. And I think that's sad. Because I personally enjoy watching and playing this game. And final boss, but I think that's given with any game, that the final boss would be memorable. Some of these saves are actually kind of hard, like this one that Hyoka is on. I'm hoping that we manage to get there to the boss pretty soon. Because the final boss is not easy. But based on the pace we're going right now, I think we'd have to get a pretty solid rest of this stage. I'm talking like we'd probably have to get there like 28 minutes, 29-ish. Also K3. I don't think this was Carnival's first endeavor with conveyor belts, but I think it was definitely his best. Or one of the better ones. The conveyor belts in Destination are also pretty okay. But compared to Picture, anything that involves conveyors in Carnival is a godsend. Going for the skip, I like it. Like to play it risky. Ooh. After this, we enter Blue and then white, I do believe. So 2 more of this stage. Dying halfway through this save really does suck, but it's not the end of the world. 285, we already had our pink stage. What do you think the stage with Destimore was? Jazzing. That jump at the bottom really is just a nerfed double diamond. Which makes you think, oh, it's nerfed, that must be easy. It's nerfed in such a way that it basically requires the same inputs. Or at least something very similar, especially on the rejump. So I honestly don't blame Hyoka for dying so many times down there, but it is kind of rough. There we go. Now some easy choke stuff. JK. Go down, lol. We have now entered white. This is the final segments before the final boss. There never was a blue. I've swindled you. We're gonna have some time bomb moments. Personally, I think white is definitely the best out of the final 4 stages. It feels simultaneously the most and least thought out, somehow. Alright, coming up pretty soon, we are going to be confronting the final boss. We still got a couple screens to go, but I'll just start my ramble now because I know stream is delayed for me. So the final boss, the Devil King, otherwise known as Akuma no O. It is the forceful ruler over the lands, bringing it to chaos. They are able to alter their form to equal that of the challenger they're facing, which at first doesn't seem like much, but eventually becomes a grander and grander thing. But defeating the Devil King will restore peace to the land. And isn't that what every story needs? Being able to bring peace to everyone you know. As for the boss itself, it's divided into 3 phases. The first phase, this. It's got a couple of attacks and some of them will overlap. The Devil King does have a name. It talks about it later into the fight. It is Seig, otherwise known as Jiku. Which is why, if you've played Camellia 3, you'll notice that, hey, this name tag says that it's called Seig. And you're right, it is called Seig. But if you've ever seen Happle 2, you'll notice that its name tag says Jik. And you know what? You're also right. There is no wrong answer. One's just a direct translation and one's pronunciation. So really, the only person who can say which one's right and wrong is Carnival himself. That is unfortunate. The second and third phases of this boss are definitely where the boss starts to get hard, and you don't get any saves at all. You gotta do the whole thing in one go. Ooh, getting a little close there. One of the keys to being able to consistently do this boss is to be able to look at multiple sections of the screen at once. There's no way this is underestimate. Just saying that right now, that it's impossible. But honestly, if we're a couple minutes over estimate, the next run I have a 15-minute estimate, I can just pop it off in 6. It's fine. Oh, bro! It's very easy to get walled on the second phase, a little less so the third phase, but everything is a remix of K3. I don't know what you're talking about. This run got some pretty bad RNG all throughout. Like, on Destimore, and a little less on the time bombs. And now here, that was Schwick. It's a shame that some really good games just have certain flaws that can make them unfair. You can do it, Hyoka. Getting the attack where the apples decide to aim down at you on top of the attack where the apples aim at you, that's just a recipe for disaster. A lot of these attacks in isolation aren't too terrible, but it's the transitions, man. Those are what kill you. Like that. That's pretty sketchy. Can we get some bless RNG in chat? That emote might be dead. There's no way it's a dead emote. I just used it the other day. Did they remove it? You're kidding me. They removed RNGesus. Yeah, FM Prey. Ooh, getting a little spicy there, Hyoka. And now there's an epic cutscene where Nina sacrifices herself in order to protect Haya to defeat the Devil King. It's either all or nothing. This last phase has a chance to sometimes kill you with Spike RNG, but if you notice, it's the same 3 attacks over and over again. It will always shoot the RNG spikes, and then it will always do fire, and then it will always turn... Well, it would always do the other thing, but once you get it to about 1/3 health, then it will start doing this, which is causing just random sprites from the rest of the game to appear, and this is the make or break moment. And that is time. You have defeated the Devil King, but at what cost? Haya looks off into the distance, realizes that it doesn't want the same fate that it once had, jumps off, and dies. But wait, Nina's still alive! It creates a text box that says, "Wait, kid, don't jump," and you're not... It's such a plot twist, and it's such a big moment. I want to be the Justice. It's a truly phenomenal game. More people should give it a chance. I don't know if Crack is going to show the entire credits, so I'm kind of on the fence about whether or not I should say something. If he does show the entire credits, then you'll see it. But if not, then I'll just say what it is.
You can go through the credits. It's fine.
Okay. But yeah. The moral of the story is, if a demon king takes over your land and a magical fairy tries to tell you to defeat him, chances are you were the demon king. Let me just see how much time I have. Yeah, I can. Here you can see the list of all the bosses and stages you've been through. And let me see. Let me check my delay so I can try not to spoil this. Advanced video stats. I have a 3-second delay. Which means that I should save the thing 3 seconds before it happens. These are the special thanks section. I don't actually know who these people are, but I do know that they are legends. If you're in the Justice credits, then there's a really good chance that you're probably a legend in the Japanese community. That's just how I judge it anyways. Anyways, after the credits fade, you get to see that the kid's alright. And so is Nina. In fact, because they defeated the Devil King, they returned peace to the land. And now Nina is back to her elven self. And he went straight to the death time. That is then I Want to Be the Justice. And if you were tired of hearing me talk, don't worry, I'm still going to be talking. Because I will be doing a speedrun up next of I Want to Whisper and Mirror, which is a complete change of pace, both time-wise and design-wise, so stay tuned for that.